It was almost midnight when Layla finally pulled into the driveway. The headlights cut through the thin fog rolling off the lake, casting long shadows on the porch where I stood waiting. We lived on the northern edge of Minnesota, tucked away in a house meant for peaceful retreats, not heavy conversations. But peace had been missing for a while. She stepped out of the car with a bright smile and a breezy, "Sorry I'm late, flights were a mess." Her hair was a little tousled from the drive, her coat cinched tight around her waist. There was something about the way she moved, though, too casual, too rehearsed. Like she'd practiced arriving late. I helped her unload her bags without a word. We'd done this routine dozens of times before, but that night, something felt different. She smelled faintly of perfume, expensive, musky, floral, not the kind she wore. Not the kind I'd ever gifted her. One of the bags was unzipped, just slightly, like it hadn't been packed with care. I reached for it as she slipped off her boots. I don't know why I looked inside. Maybe it was instinct, maybe curiosity. Maybe deep down I already knew something was wrong. First, the perfume. I picked up the small bottle, heavy in the hand, sleek and foreign. Then, tucked beneath it, a crimson set of lingerie, tags still attached. The kind of thing you don't buy for solo hotel nights or out of boredom. And finally, a letter. Folded neatly. Cream-colored stationery. Inked in smooth, looping cursive. The name at the end of it was Simon. I froze, breath caught in my throat. I read the first few lines, just enough to feel the earth shift beneath me. Last weekend was magic. You always make me feel alive. Counting the days until Vancouver. Let's not hide anymore. Vancouver. The letter was folded around a plane ticket. One way. In her name. I put everything back exactly as I found it. Zipped the bag shut. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as she called from the kitchen asking if I wanted tea. I said yes. And then I said nothing. She sat across from me at the dining table, legs curled under her like it was just another night, rattling on about weather delays, bland airport food, and a coworker who spilled coffee on his laptop. Her story was smooth. Not overly detailed, not too vague. Just enough to pass. I nodded. Smiled even. My hands didn't shake, and my voice didn't crack. But inside, something broke quietly without fanfare. Like glass splintering behind drywall. You don't see it right away. But you feel it. You know it. She asked how my week had been. I said fine. We talked about the neighbor's dog, about the woodpile needing restacking, about taxes and leftover casserole. It was all so normal. But I couldn't unsee that letter. She didn't notice anything was wrong. That was the worst part. She didn't catch the slight delay in my answers, the way I stared a second too long at her face, searching for something, remorse? Guilt? Anything. But there was nothing. Just that polished ease she always carried, the same one that made everyone in her office call her unshakable. At some point, she excused herself to shower. I sat there for a while, staring at the steam curling up from my tea. Then I walked into the bedroom and looked at the zipped bag. I didn't open it again. I didn't need to. That night, lying in bed beside her, I kept my breathing steady. I didn't ask about the letter. I didn't bring up the perfume or the ticket. I just stared at the ceiling and wondered when it had all changed. When she had changed. Or maybe I was just seeing her clearly for the first time. She reached for me in her sleep, murmuring my name. And I flinched. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay next to Layla, listening to the soft rhythm of her breath, the occasional turn of her body beneath the covers. Outside, the wind rolled off the lake, whispering against the windows like it had secrets to share. And maybe it did. Maybe the house had been trying to warn me all along. My eyes burned from staring at the ceiling. Every time I closed them, I saw that letter. That damn letter. Last weekend was magic. Magic. That word replayed in my head like an echo I couldn't silence. Had she used that word with me once? Maybe years ago, on a weekend trip to Michigan when we stayed at a bed and breakfast by the dunes. Maybe never. Sometime around 3 a.m. I gave up trying to sleep. I slipped out of bed and into the living room, letting the cold hardwood floor wake me up fully. I sat in the dark with a blanket draped over my shoulders, staring at the fireplace we hadn't used since early spring. And the more I sat, the more things began to click. The missed calls over the last few months. The late returns from work. The sudden, almost compulsive password changes on all her devices. The way she used to leave her phone on the kitchen counter during dinner, and now it was always face down. Always close. Always locked. A couple of weeks ago, I'd walked in from work early and heard her on a call. She was laughing, genuinely laughing, the kind that lit up her whole voice, and then I stepped into the hallway and the sound stopped. Just like that. A dead, suspicious silence. When I asked who she was talking to, she smiled like it was nothing. Oh, just Marcy from legal. You wouldn't know her. Another time she was typing on her laptop in the living room and I walked by with a cup of coffee. The screen reflected off the window behind her. I caught a glimpse, just a sliver of a chat window. The name at the top said Sai. Sai. At the time I assumed it was short for Sylvia. Or Sydney. Some coworker, maybe? But now, Simon. It had to be him. The name wasn't casual. The way she closed the screen? Like someone slamming a door on something they didn't want seen. It wasn't just her devices, though. It was her. The Layla I knew was slipping through my fingers, one piece at a time. Her trips were more frequent, more rushed, and always work. There was always a pitch meeting, a conference, a leadership retreat. She came back smiling, but never tired. Not the kind of exhausted you get from working 10-hour days and hotel beds that don't let you sleep. She came back glowing. Energized. And the scent. That perfume. I never smelled it before that bag, but now I recognized it. She'd come home with that scent more than once. It clung to her scarf, her collar. It was sharp and sweet and wrong. The kind of scent that didn't belong in our house. Our friends had started noticing too, in subtle ways. At a dinner party a month ago, one of our neighbors, Candace, asked Layla if she was dating someone new as a joke. "You're glowing, girl," she said, laughing over her wine glass. Layla laughed too hard. Then looked at me too quickly. Said, "Please, Trevor would K***LL me." I laughed too. But I felt something tighten in my gut. That kind of comment never lands by accident. People see more than we think. And at another dinner, I remember watching her from across the table as she texted someone, smiling softly at her phone screen, her thumb brushing the edge like she was tracing someone's words. I asked who she was texting. She said it was her sister. Her sister lives in France. 6-hour time difference. It was 9 p.m. here. It didn't make sense. But I'd let it slide. I let a lot slide. She'd become distracted at home, even in the simple moments. At breakfast, she'd stir her tea absently, eyes glazed. At night, she'd stay up scrolling through her phone, then turn over and say, "Good night, babe," with a robotic tone. She used to cuddle close, mumble nonsense in her sleep. Now, she slept with her back to me. The emotional drift was slow. It was quiet. But it was real. And yet here I was. Sitting in my own living room, trying to make excuses for her. Still wondering if I was overreacting? If maybe I was just projecting some fear onto her because I'd been feeling distant, too. Maybe all marriages go through this. Maybe this was our rough patch. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't a phase. This was a pattern. And it was all leading back to one thing, Simon. I didn't know who he was yet, not really, but I knew enough. I knew he had shared moments with her, in a hotel room, probably in Austin. I knew he called her my spark. I knew he was planning something. Vancouver wasn't a vacation. It wasn't a conference. It was an escape route. I sat in the dark until morning began to pour through the curtains, gray and cold and merciless. I heard her stirring in the bedroom, the floor creaking under her feet. She came out rubbing her eyes, yawning like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in our life the day before. She asked if I wanted pancakes. I said no. I said I had to get to work early. She nodded, kissed me on the cheek, and smiled like we were still okay. And I smiled back. But inside I was already watching the walls crumble. It happened the next morning. Layla was in the shower singing, of all things. Her voice echoed off the bathroom tiles, light and carefree, as though nothing in the world was wrong. As though she didn't have another man's letter folded in a bag 2 feet from our bed. I was standing in the living room, still trying to decide if I was going to make coffee or just walk out the door and never come back. That's when I heard the chime from her laptop. It was perched on the edge of the dining table, open. A soft ping like a calendar alert or a message. I glanced toward the bathroom. Water still running. Still singing. I didn't mean to snoop, not really. But something tugged at me. A slow draw, the kind that doesn't feel like a choice. I stepped toward the screen. The notification floated there, still visible. Incoming video, S. Whitaker. That name. That initial. S. It didn't take much imagination. And then the video played. It was just a few seconds long. Not a call, just a short clip like a saved voicemail from the digital age. Maybe he meant it for her inbox. Maybe he meant it to be private. His face filled the screen. A man, maybe mid-30s, with sharp cheekbones and a beard just unkempt enough to be intentional. He was shirtless. Behind him, a sunlit hotel room. A bed unmade. Curtains drawn just enough to suggest secrecy. Then her voice. She wasn't in the frame, but I knew that laugh. It was real. Warm. A laugh I hadn't heard in months. It sounded like she was happy. Fully, freely happy. And it wasn't with me. The clip ended there. I stood still. staring at the frozen frame of his smirking face. My mind was blank, but my body reacted first. My stomach clenched. My hands trembled. I didn't slam the laptop shut. I didn't scream or punch a wall. I just sat down. There were no questions left to ask. I didn't need to see them together. I didn't need GPS coordinates or a time-stamped itinerary. That laugh said more than any evidence could. The ease in her voice, the affection in his eyes. It confirmed everything I had been trying to deny. They were involved. Not a flirtation. Not a one-off. Something real. Something consistent. Something secret. I looked up and stared at the wall across from me. There was a photo from our last trip to the North Shore. Layla leaning into me, smiling, windblown and bright. I'd loved that photo. I told everyone it captured her perfectly. Now it looked like a memory from a life I no longer lived in. The water shut off. Her singing stopped. I stood, closed the laptop softly, and walked into the kitchen. I poured a glass of water and stood at the sink, watching the light hit the pine trees out back. She came in a minute later, hair wrapped in a towel, still humming something under her breath. She kissed my shoulder as she passed, then asked if I wanted eggs. I said sure. We moved through the morning like actors in a play neither of us realized we were performing. She told me about a podcast she'd started on the flight home. I nodded. She said she might take the afternoon off to catch up on sleep. I told her she deserved it, and I meant none of it, because in that moment, I wasn't her husband. I wasn't the man across the table anymore. I was a witness. I'd seen the truth, and it wasn't hiding anymore. After that morning, something inside me shifted. There was no explosion, no screaming match, no thrown plates or slammed doors, just a quiet, deliberate silence that filled the house like fog. I still kissed her goodnight, still washed her coffee mug, still replied with, "Yeah, sounds good," when she told me about another weekend work trip. But inside I had crossed a line. There was a before and now I was fully in the after. I couldn't confront her. Not yet. Because when you look someone in the eye and ask them to tell the truth, and you already know the truth, their lie becomes another insult. I needed more than outrage. I needed proof. That's when I remembered her tablet. It was older, one she barely used anymore. Layla was always moving between her phone and laptop, but the tablet sat mostly ignored on a shelf in her office. I'd bought it for her as a birthday gift 3 years earlier, engraved with her initials. She said it was too bulky now, but never got around to throwing it out. I charged it overnight. The next morning, after she left for yoga, I opened it. No password. That alone should have scared me, how easily it all unfolded. The moment it connected to our Wi-Fi, the cloud backups began to update photos, notes, synced emails. And there it was, folder after folder, auto-uploaded from her phone. She had forgotten to disconnect the sync. It was all there. Photos of her and Simon, first one, then dozens. In restaurants, hotel rooms, parks. At a rooftop bar with twinkling lights overhead. On a beach that definitely wasn't Austin. Her in a sundress I'd never seen. Him shirtless, holding a surfboard, with her reflection in his sunglasses. One image knocked the air out of me. Layla curled up in a hotel bed, Simon next to her, both of them laughing. She looked peaceful, unburdened. It was a version of her I hadn't seen in a long time. I stared at that photo for a long time. Every date on those images matched a business trip she'd taken. I pulled out a notebook and matched them to my calendar. Miami, San Diego, Austin. She'd lied every time. I opened her cloud notes, password lists, drafted messages, grocery lists mixed with emails never sent. One draft caught my eye. Trevor will be okay. He's strong. I've held on too long trying to make things work, but we've both known for a while. I deserve to feel this alive. With you, I do. It wasn't sent, but it existed. I backed everything up. All of it. I created encrypted folders, saved copies to external drives, organized each photo, email, screenshot *T, labeled each by date. I didn't even feel angry anymore, just efficient, cold. When I was done, I called a lawyer. Her name was Margaret Doyle. I found her through a colleague, tough, thorough, no drama. She picked up on the second ring. I told her the basics. Then I sent her a compressed file of the proof. By the next morning, we had a strategy. First, financial protections. I'd always handled our investments, and thankfully most of the assets were in my name. But Layla had access to our joint account and a few shared cards. Margaret advised we freeze the accounts quietly and open new ones in my name only. I did that by lunch. Next, property. The house, our house, had been purchased before we married. I checked the title. Still in my name. That was a relief. Margaret filed the paperwork. Initiated the process. Quietly. By Thursday, the divorce petition was complete. She called it clean and airtight. She said Layla wouldn't see it coming. I still hadn't said a word to my wife. She moved around the house like everything was normal. She told me about a conference in Seattle next month. Said she might fly in a day early to unwind. She asked if I wanted to plan something special for our anniversary. I nodded. I even smiled. But every night, when she drifted off beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, waiting for morning. Waiting to finish what had beg asterisk and the moment I unzipped her bag. She had built a secret life. I was building a response. And I was almost ready. It happened on a Tuesday. Not because I planned it for that day, not for any symbolic reason, it just felt like the moment. Something in me had gone still. Not numb exactly. Just resolved. Layla got home a little after 6. Said she had stopped at the co-op for some almond milk and a new herbal tea she wanted me to try. She moved around the kitchen with ease, humming some song I didn't recognize, opening cabinets, her bag still slung over one shoulder. I waited until she set the groceries down. I left something on the dining table, I said quietly. Could you take a look? She blinked at me. Sure. No hesitation. That's what caught me, how easily she walked into it. How comfortable she was in the performance. She walked around the corner and stopped. I stayed where I was, in the kitchen. I could see the back of her through the doorway. Frozen. On the table was a plain folder. Inside it, a printed copy of the letter from Simon. The Vancouver ticket. Several photos, dated, time-stamped. A USB drive. A page with a brief typed summary from Margaret outlining the petition and division of assets. At the top, in bold, notice of intent to divorce. I didn't say a word. Layla stood there, hand over her mouth. Her shoulders tensed. She opened the folder and slowly leafed through the contents, piece by piece. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just stood there, absorbing. Then her voice, small, sharp. What is this? I stepped into the doorway, leaning against the frame. Everything you didn't tell me. Her eyes darted from the papers to me. Trevor, No, I held up a hand. Calm. Flat. I'm not here to argue. I'm not here to listen to another story. I've already filed. Silence. She reached for the USB. You went through my stuff? You left it all connected. Your tablet was still synced. You made it easy. She opened her mouth, searching for some angle, some way to turn this. Trevor, I never meant for you to find a. But I did. Her face crumpled. I was going to end it. With him. I swear to you. I tilted my head. You had a plane ticket. That was before. It was stupid. I wasn't going to go. Was that before Seattle? I asked. Or after? She flinched. I stepped further into the room. I've already moved half my things into a hotel. You'll find the joint accounts frozen. Credit cards locked. Utilities rerouted. I took your name off the car registration this morning. Her lips parted in disbelief. Trevor, please, can we just talk about this? We're talking now. No, not like this, she said, her voice cracking. You can't just erase everything. We've built a life together. I nodded. And you burned it. Quietly. Carefully. While still telling me you loved me. I do love you. Then why did you lie to my face? Over and over. She looked like she was about to collapse. I was confused. I wasn't. There it was. The line that severed everything. She stepped toward me and I stepped back. No more touching. No more pretending, I said. It's done. Her face crumbled. The sob that came from her chest was guttural, sudden, like her body had just remembered how to react. She reached for the table to steady herself. Trevor, please? Please don't do this. I'm not doing anything, I said softly. You already did. Then I walked past her, picked up my keys, and left. My phone buzzed an hour later. Then again. Then again. I didn't look. I was already gone. By the end of that week, the cracks in Layla's world began to show. I hadn't responded to her texts or calls. Not once. I didn't need to. The silence was enough. It was its own kind of answer. I stayed at a hotel in town. Cheap, forgettable, with thin walls and bad coffee. but I slept better than I had in months. Then the storm hit. Simon's wife found out. I don't know how, maybe she saw something, maybe she followed her gut like I did. But within days, *TS of the emails, the photos, even a snippet of the video clip I'd seen on Layla's laptop surfaced online. First, it was a whisper on a local forum. Then a fire. Someone shared it to a client group Layla worked with. A whisper turned into a reputation collapsing. I didn't leak it. I didn't have to. The truth has a way of slipping through. Her name was all over a community Facebook group. Then LinkedIn chatter started. Cryptic posts about unprofessional conduct and personal boundaries. Clients began dropping from her firm. Colleagues distanced themselves. The same people who once called her a force now left her on read. And still, she reached out to me. Emails filled with panic, then regret, then desperation. First she begged. Then she tried anger. Then guilt. One message just read, "Please, please, I've lost everything." But I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She wasn't mine to save anymore. 3 months later, I was living in Nashville. A small rental home on the edge of the city, close enough to hear music drifting in from downtown on the weekends. I'd found work at a modest art gallery. Quiet, peaceful work. I spent my mornings opening crates and cataloging exhibits. My nights writing songs again. Something I hadn't done since college. I got a dog. Border Collie mix. Her name's June. She doesn't care about my past. She just waits at the door when I come home. The silence in my life no longer felt dangerous. Felt clean. I didn't have to wonder what Layla was doing. I didn't have to replay conversations and wonder what was real. There was no more guessing. At a local cafe, I started seeing a woman, Marie. She worked there, always wore her hair in a messy bun, always remembered my order. One day she asked if I was a writer. I told her I used to be, in a way. We started talking, then laughing, then walking together after her shift. No pressure, no stories, just small beginnings. And that's the thing. Betrayal didn't just end my marriage. It cleared the path. It hurt like hell, but it stripped everything down. And beneath it all, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Myself. Now I wake up with no unanswered questions. I play music again. I breathe easier. Life doesn't feel like a performance. Feels like mine. And every now and then, when I catch a reflection of myself in a window or a mirror, I almost don't recognize the man standing there. But I like him.